why your vendors don't want you to go to container first, but your CFO will love it. So the agenda today is first we'll welcome and do some introductions. So we'll talk a little bit about Crossvale and who we are. Then we'll walk into the business behind IT spending, who profits from your legacy stack. This webinar is focused towards business leaders and IT leaders, but if you are a business leader and not in IT, you are in the right place. We're going to talk a bit about some of the things that's going on in IT and how it's affecting businesses. Then we'll walk into OpenShift and containers, the new operating model for cost control, to kind of talk about where the direction things are going. We'll talk about the real world executive use case that doing nothing can really cost you millions. And then platform modernization without disruption, that's everybody does not want disruption as they modernize, and then how to start the shift, evaluation, planning, and strategy. So you have an understanding of, a direction that you can go if you look at this and go, yeah, in our enterprise, we are definitely looking at trying to understand how to improve what we're doing. Then we can have some Q&A at the end. Without further ado, my name is Todd Millard. I'm CEO of Crossvale. I also have our Director of Sales with us, Mike Cohurst. So we will be rolling right along. So just a quick understanding of who Crossvale is and why we're here having this discussion. At Crossvale, we work with IT leaders that need to improve their container confidence. Our exclusive approach guarantees success, mitigates risk, and immediately enables containerization benefits. We focus on containerized workloads for people to be able to modernize. So this is why we're having this discussion, because this is the core part of our business that we have done for many, many years to help organizations modernize. Many awards and accolades, been in business for 23 years, operations in US and EMEA, and we're a top level Red Hat partner. So we'll first start with the business behind IT spend. Who profits from your legacy stack? So I'll talk a little bit about what do I mean when I say a legacy stack. So on one side, you have your legacy stack, which is your virtualization layer. And virtualization has been around for decades. So I kind of have over here this little logo, Blockbuster, as I take a look at virtualization and kind of use an analogy that virtualization is like video rental. It's comfortable, been around for decades. Back in the day, we used to drive to the video store and rent videos and dealt with all the manual aspects of that, of driving there, walking through the store, trying to find the video that you wanted, see if it was in stock, renting it, taking it home, viewing only those ones that you took were the ones you could view, then you had to take it back, return it, pay late fees if you returned it late, all of those things that went on. So if we think about virtualization and we think about the dominant people in virtualization, the dominant vendor in virtualization is VMware. And there's been some changes in that market that we're going to talk about a little bit. But if we look on the other side, containerization. So containerization, I look at this as digital streaming. So when Netflix came out and people started to move away from this video rental over to digital streaming, where now you have access to everything that you want sitting on your couch. You can go in there and you can watch the videos that you want. You can go to Prime. You could go to all these different digital platforms now. And the big difference is once the movies and TV shows got to the point that they were designed to be streaming, it now made a major shift for people to move away from driving to the video store to just getting access. And this is what's happened today. So what's happened today is now 85% of commercial software out there has containerized. So most of the commercial software that most businesses are using to be able to keep them going, the ERP systems, the databases, the point of sale systems, all of these different systems that are out there have a containerized version of it. So you can actually immediately start taking advantage of moving to a modern container environment because somebody else has done the hard work for you. So this is when I talk about a legacy stack, I'm talking about your stack that is VMs. So this could be running in the cloud, you could be running on-prem, you could be running in a different hypervisor, but basically virtualizing your IT operations versus containerizing it, which is the new the new mainstream solution today. So who benefits from your legacy infrastructure? So who benefits from you staying on VMs? Well, your hardware vendors. And the reason why your hardware vendors do is because VMs take up more space, so they can sell more hardware to you. So you're not going to have your hardware vendor easily coming to you trying to get you to move to containers. Hypervisor vendors, so VMware out there, they're going to be able to capitalize on you staying on VMs. Cloud providers, when you're running on cloud and you're running on VMs in the cloud, as you're deploying software into those VMs, they're going to be able to sell you more cloud. Legacy technology consulting and MSP firms. So currently there's firms that many of you may be using already where they're providing consulting or even managed services around your VM platform. And so they have a vested interest in keeping you on this older platform. And then commercial software vendors running on VMs. So right now, commercial software vendors, like I said, about 85% of them have already containerized. Well, when you're selling commercial software based off of the consumption, which is the amount of space that you take up on infrastructure, well, you're going to take up more space on VMs than you would in containers. So they have a vested interest also in you buying and keeping it on VMs. Because you're going to have to purchase more, and then sales teams paid to sell all this. So even at the executive level in these hardware vendors or cloud vendors or whatever it may be, at the executive level, even if they have a strategy to go, hey, I want to move our customers over to the new modern platform on containers, sales teams are still paid based off of quota. And when you start taking away the amount of infrastructure they're going to sell, cloud they're going to sell, commercial software they're going to sell, it makes it harder for them to make quota. So once it gets down to the sales teams and they're comped in this way, it makes it difficult for them to say, hey, I want to try to push you towards what's best for your enterprise, which is going to be moving to the next paradigm, which is containerization. So hardware, I already kind of went through the slide. Hardware vendors lose revenue. Hyper vendors lose licensing. Cloud providers lose idle capacity. Consulting and MSP firms lose complexity revenue of them being able to manage that for you, and software vendors lose revenue. So they're motivated the opposite direction. Also, your internal technical resources. So why would the internal technical resources not come to you and say, hey, this is a direction that we should be going? Fear of the unknown is a big one. Adopting containers in, a platform like OpenShift or Kubernetes has, there's changes in tooling and workflows, skill set changes, all of this. So the unknown makes it difficult to say, yes, hey, I've been working on this other platform for so long, I am interested in retooling and relearning. So that fear of the unknown kind of holds them back. Job security tied to legacy expertise. So again, there's many people out there that have the skill sets in virtualization. And so it scares them to have to move to a new skill set. So that's also another reason why internal technical resources may have pushback on an area where they have a lot of expertise, but they don't have expertise in the new paradigm. Increased short-term workload. Okay, so as you shift from one platform to the other, there is going to be some additional work needed to be able to take care of that shift. So that extra work could be something that they fear having to take on that extra work and make sure that work is right. Perceived risk of uptime. So teams that are responsible for uptime are usually risk averse. What's the things that we can do that is not going to affect our uptime. So with the attitude kind of like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, this could become a issue with you in modernization if you kind of maintain that if it's not broke, don't fix it attitude. It's kind of like, well, my paper map works perfect. Like, why would I move to GPS if I know how to read a map? Well, because there is a better way. There's a better way to do this. New technology has come out that's improved how you deal with getting from point A to point B. So even though the paper map's not broken, there is a reason to fix directions. Tooling and process debt. So changing tooling, changing the integration of how processes are intermingled into platforms also will have to change. So there's things that will need to be done in order to improve that. Now, new platforms have a lot of this stuff built in that's going to make it easier for you to be able to make that move. And working with experts that understand the platform can make a big difference in that space as well. And then cultural resistance to change. Sometimes people are just wired for consistency, and IT teams are trying to make sure that uptime is the best. The applications are still running. So they're looking at this just from anything that's changed is going to be something that they're going to push back on. So a lot of times the internal technical resources are looking at this from their perspective and not necessarily the perspective of what's best for the organization. So the key takeaway for this section, your current advisors are not motivated to help you make this move. Your infrastructure vendors are not going to come to you and really be super motivated to do this. Now, if you go to them and say, I want to do this, they'll help you do this, but they're not going to really push for you to make the modernization. Commercial software vendors, the same. Your managed service providers are also going to be pushing against this because it's a change in what you're currently purchasing from them, as well as your internal staff that may not understand exactly how to deal with containerization. So I'm saying, don't take my word for this. Do your own research. Go to your favorite LLM, such as like ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever LLM you're using out there. Go in and ask these questions. Tell me about what's going on with VMs and containers in IT infrastructure. And as a business leader, what should I do about it? Like, ask an LLM to provide this information. If I move applications to containers, how much infrastructure can I save? If I use a lot of commercial software, how can I benefit from moving to containers? So commercial software, same as commercial off-the-shelf software. These are the platforms that you're buying from software vendors that help run your business. And what can I expect if I don't move to containers? Do the research. Ask these types of questions out there into an LLM to get some feedback on this instead of just taking my word for it. So OpenShift and containers, the new operating model for cost control. So we look at this from legacy infrastructure costs. Well, the traditional infrastructure costs on VMs, aging data centers, there's layered licensing, not suited for today's speed, cost pressure, and innovation needs that's out there. This is why people are moving from this older legacy version of deploying IT into VMs and moving over into containers. Vendor lock-in challenges, especially the VMware acquisition of Broadcom. If you're a business leader and you have not heard of what's going on with the VMware acquisition of Broadcom and what Broadcom has done with other IT acquisitions in the past, where they have bought depreciating technologies such as VMs are depreciating technologies. They're on their way out while containers are on their way in, and then squeeze the profit out of them. So in most cases, people are going in and being squeezed for 3 times the amount of the cost that they paid the prior year. So you pay $1 million in VMware prior year, the next renewal is going to be $3 million. We're seeing I've seen as much as 14x on some companies on this. So if you're not aware of what's going on there and you're on the business side, you're a business leader, go check that out. Ask those questions. Go to your procurement. Ask them how much VMware that you currently buy. Ask what you paid for it before. Did you guys renew? And what did the price go up? Or when's the renewal coming up on that? Because you can expect that there's going to be a large increase in most cases. Shift to
Todd,
containers.
I was just going
Go
to say
ahead,
a
Mike.
note on that. Typically, what Broadcom is doing is waiting till the last minute to get you an executable order form. So that way it locks you into whatever pricing they put in front of you. So it's better to get out in front of it early and often and get your ducks in a row.
Yeah, because it's not a simple process to just say, hey, I'm going to move out of VMware and move to a different platform. So you have to plan and create a strategy to do this. And so this is why we're having this conversation today. Shift to containers. Companies are transitioning containers to reduce costs, increase agility, and prepare for the future. In the past, the early adopters of containers that started years ago. I mean, like we've been doing this for 7 years, helping people get in containers. It's mainstream now. Years past, it was expensive to do this because you had to refactor your own applications because the commercial software hadn't refactored yet. So you had to go in and say, hey, I'm going to go and rebuild my applications to be able to suit containers. But today, all the innovation is on the container space and the commercial software has done it. So you can take advantage immediately of shifting to containers versus what people had to do, 2, 3, 4, or even 5 years ago when they were moving to containers. So efficiency gains with containers. Containers are lightweight and efficient, reducing infrastructure needs by up to 60%. So you usually will be able to reduce your infrastructure costs by 40 to 60% if you're running the same workload in a container versus a VM, just because of the way that the containers deploy and the amount of space that they use. You can save usually 40 to 60%. So just that, if you just take a look at the commercial software you have and go, how much commercial software am I running? And how much compute am I having to buy for that? And you can cut that in half. What does that do to your budget? What does that do to the business? If you can get not only the same results, but also have more agility there, because a lot of things containers can do that can improve the agility of your developers and cut your overhead, that it's a huge gain. Modernization with the containers, like I said, 85% of commercial software is already containerized, so you can take advantage now. Vendor neutral platforms. Containers run anywhere. So this gets rid of vendor lock-in. You can take a containerized environment and move it between clouds, put it on-prem. You can put it in any location because all the dependencies are tied up in that container. And that's one of the big advantages of moving to a container is you have those dependencies tied in that container, and you can put it into Azure, you can put it over on AWS, you can put it in your own data center, run it in a colo. We manage container environments in IBM Power. So there's a lot of different places that you can move this to, and the complexity is moved out into the platform and the way the platform is built and configured, and not in your code. Faster, cheaper delivery. New services and applications can be launched in days, not months, cutting time to market, reducing operational drag. If you're a business leader and you're concerned with how fast it takes for your IT app dev teams to be able to get you new features or things that you need, and they're building monolithic apps in VMs, this can help with that. You can go and if you get those apps refactored, you can go in and make changes quicker and faster and get them into production very quickly using microservices versus a big monolithic app that takes a lot of testing to be able to roll out. Future ready IT, AI runs on containers. So if you're thinking anything related to AI and you want to control your data and not put all that data into somebody else's cloud, you're going to need to be container confident. And if you don't have a container environment now, you don't have container confidence today, and you are thinking or talking about things that you want to do in AI and you want to control your data, then containers is what you will need to be getting confidence in. So the real opportunity is bigger than a new hypervisor. And the reason why I bring this up is right now people are trying to solve this problem around Broadcom, and they say, hey, 3x on VMware, I got this big bill coming in, I need to come up with a solution. My solution is, what other options do I have? And so we talked about VMs being like video rental and VMware being like Blockbuster. So if you have a problem with Blockbuster video and they increase the price by 3x to you, why would you close your Blockbuster account and open a Hollywood video account when digital streaming is available? It doesn't make sense. So when I say the opportunity is bigger than a new hypervisor, going from the legacy technology and then choosing a new legacy technology such as cloud, running EC2 instances in AWS, or running VMs in Azure, or running a Nutanix, or Proxmox, whatever the solution is, it's just another hypervisor, not a container environment. So you're just going from legacy technology to legacy and paying for all the cost of the transition, and you're going to have to transition again. So why not find the right environment that's going to be able to solve the problem, not only for today, but also for tomorrow? And so the smart strategy is the old model is costing you more. You need to get away from VMs. Not all workloads need to move out of VMs. And I have a solution for you on that, because there's some things that you're going to sunset. Let's not go into the cost of doing this. There's a way to properly do this without saying, let me pick everything up and I'm going to put it all into containers. That's not the right solution. The right solution is a hybrid solution. But the old model right now, by just staying on VMs, is costing you more. The VMware acquisition of Broadcom is costing you more if you have not solved for that. Reinvesting in the legacy model it will cost you more if you switch hypervisors without thinking about the future, or your IT team is coming to you and they're advising on doing that. The real opportunity is bigger, looking at how you take this inflection point of what's going on in the VM world and move to the new technology. And when I say new technology, it was new 7 years ago. This is mainstream. Like I said, 85% of commercial software is already running on containers, or has the ability to run on containers. Keep legacy, shift to containers. Hybrid workloads where you can use your legacy stuff in VMs and containers, but run them all in the same environment, simplifies your operational overhead and makes it easy for you to make that shift. And then benefits of containers and OpenShift. Containers offer massive efficiency gains, built-in modernization, no vendor lock-in, faster and cheaper delivery, and a future-ready IT foundation. So the smarter strategy is understanding how to take your problem you have today and then also modernize at the same time. So the key takeaway: switching hypervisors are a costly temporary move. So if your IT staff is coming to you and saying, hey, let's switch from this hypervisor, which is VMware, and we're going to move to AWS EC2 instances, you're going from VMs to VMs. We're going to go from VMware, we're going to go to Nutanix, VMs to VMs. So this is a costly temporary move. Again, don't take my word for this. Do your research. Go to your favorite LLM. Ask these types of questions. If you decided to move away from VMware, should we switch to another hypervisor or adopt OpenShift, which supports both containers and virtual machines in one platform? Why would I want to have one platform that does both VMs and containers? Which option best suits an organization seeking the lowest risk and highest rated platform with seamless integration between legacy applications and containers for maximum simplicity? These prompts are really good to dig deep into understanding what is going on and why going from one hypervisor directly just to another hypervisor is not the best solution. So do your own research on that. We'll move on to real world executive use case. Doing nothing can cost millions. So we think about the unnoticed threats that are out there. Aging VMware infrastructure. It's comfortable and expensive to maintain, limited innovation now and in the future. We take a look at all the innovation that's going on. You go out to the cloud native foundation, you can see all of these platforms, all of this innovation that's going on over there. And you take a look at the number of hypervisors that are out there and the innovation that are going in the hypervisor. And it's really, really limited because VMs are a depreciating asset. This is why Broadcom bought them, because they're going to squeeze the profit out of them like they did with Symantec and like they did with CA Technologies. They've done this in the past. This is a strategy that they've used before. Legacy deployment, maintain Windows with downtime, weeks or months for feature updates rather than days or hours. By staying with legacy deployment models inside VMs, you end up losing that ability to have that agility for faster feature updates, faster security updates, faster ways to get that innovation to your teams. Lack of automation, every update, patch, and change, a manual fire drill versus, you risk of mistakes by human inefficiencies and processes, where in container environments, we can automate a lot of this stuff. And then no clear modernization plan. No path to modernization, no path to cloud native, no AI integration strategy, because we're still sitting on VMs and trying to take our legacy environment that we have and then figuring out, how am I going to modernize this? I don't have the plan in place to really give me the options that's going to give me the best future. So the default recommendation, the IT team recommends renewing the VMware licensing for another 3 years. But the cost had tripled due to vendor changes after the Broadcom acquisition. This default recommendation was made without seriously considering alternative solutions. So in a real world situation, we're seeing this over and over. Default recommendation coming down from the IT team saying, hey, there's no way, we have to renew VMware. So they're putting this deal in front of us for another 3 years. It's costing 3 times as much, but it's the only option we have. When this comes to you, this is not the only option. There are other options, but they're not as comfortable as just staying on the platform that you're currently on. You got to think, some IT teams aren't tied to the money at all. And they're saying, hey, I would rather stay on this platform, because for them, it's easier to just stay on the VMware platform, so we can convince the business to spend the money, because that's their only option. The money will get spent and it makes their life easier. Their life will actually be so much easier when they move to containers. They just don't know it yet. Just like when everybody was comfortable going to the video store and renting from Blockbuster, we all enjoyed it. We went there. It was a fun part of the weekend to go rent the videos. But now, would you switch back? Would you go back and say, I'm now going to drive to the video store and do that, now that you know how digital streaming works in the platforms and the access? You would not. But back then, it was very comfortable. And that's the situation that we're in now. So the real cost of inaction.
I was just going to say real quick, we're also seeing where they're going back and canceling some long-term contracts, and also upping the minimum number of cores. So keep that in mind when you're doing your review and your renewals.
Correct. Yes. So we take a look at the real cost of inaction, real world example. 3-year VM renewal costing an additional $1.4 million. They were spending $700,000 prior, went up to $2.1 million. Exactly the same as what they had before. Didn't increase it. They were buying what they had before, just an additional $1.4 million in cost. Dozens of full-time IT hours per week tied up on legacy platform operations, lacking automation because there was not the automation built in. Innovation freeze, no path to modernization, cloud native or AI integration. And innovation options became limited because staying on the legacy platform, not moving to a platform that's going to give you more innovation options. Disaster risk, the manual processes, the recovery processes relied on manual run books and tribal knowledge. So if the right person wasn't available, recovery stalls. And so in disaster risk, you still run into this, hey, I got to have this tribal knowledge. We make these run books that we're doing. This is the way that we deal with this, versus moving to a more automated environment that can solve disaster in a way that it doesn't matter who's available. It can run and get it taken care of. And then hidden lost opportunity, inability to attract top talent. The top engineers are looking to work in the most innovative places that have containers, have cloud native platforms. So legacy infrastructure made the company attract less attractive developers because the modern developers want to develop on containers. So sticking with the status quo may feel safer for your IT team, but it's a strategy that quietly drains millions. What's easy for them today could be what holds your business back tomorrow. So this comes down to, again, you got cost, you have comfort zone, and you have what they know, what they've done versus what is happening in the industry today. So the comfort zone is a silent killer of potential. So key takeaway for this section: staying on VMs without a clear strategic reason is no longer a responsible decision. Because of your ability to take advantage of container efficiencies now, where you can get the ROI very quickly, making this decision to stay there just because it's easy is not a good decision today. So again, don't take my word for it. Go to your favorite LLM and ask these types of questions. If I am a business leader and my IT staff is advising me to stay on VMs, how can I validate that this is a good plan? By signing a 3-year extension with VMware and continuing with VMs, have we effectively made our decision? Meaning it's time to shift focus elsewhere, or can I do something to improve my decision? So even if you've already made that decision, you've already gone in and said, let's sign a 3-year agreement, there's still things you can do today to set yourself up for taking advantage of modern software and what you can do to modernize while you're still trying to move out of VMware. And then my VMware renewal is not until next year. What should I do now? To give you a understanding of what options there are that's out there. Again, don't take my word for it. Go ask a LLM that understands how to provide you some advice on that. Modernizing IT without disruption, the OpenShift advantage. So the challenge of modernization is obviously you don't want to have a lot of disruption during modernization. So meaning where you're ripping out existing VMs and having to shift everything over to containers can create some disruption. And this is where OpenShift comes in, where it's a platform that has OpenShift virtualization and the OpenShift container platform. Both of them together give you virtualization where you can run your legacy stuff and containers where you can run your new containerized stuff working on the same platform together. Simplifies your ability to modernize because you can take your legacy and run it next to your modernization. So unlocking the power of OpenShift, dual platform support is what I was just talking about. You can have VM platform and your container platform side by side. Incremental adoption. OpenShift supports both containers and VMs. It allows you to train teams incrementally. We can move the stuff over onto VMs. Crossvale has also a thing called cross deploy with pod ops for OpenShift, where we actually build the platform for you and run the platform for you. So you don't need a subject matter expert for at least the first year while we will help you run that platform. So we can be your subject matter experts while you're training, and you can get critical workloads running in an environment and have experts to make sure that it is running properly. Whether you're running this on-prem, in the cloud, a colo, anywhere, hybrid, all of those, we run it anywhere for you to be able to give you that ability to get up to speed. Unified operations, by having one platform that handles both your VMs and your containers, you can have one governance across it, security models, all that stuff can be built into that one platform. You can now deploy that platform in the cloud. You can deploy it on-prem. You can run containers where you need to run them so they're close to where the data or where the users are. And then again, the containerized software advantage, over 85% of commercial software has already been containerized. So now is a great time to be able to take advantage of this because you don't have to spend all the time to redo your apps. You can start deploying containerized apps that are already available to you that somebody else spent all the time and energy to be able to containerize. They spent all the energy on that, so you don't have to. So immediate ROI of modernization by moving from a VM platform and moving over to a container platform. Licensing efficiencies, you get up to 40% savings on licensing efficiencies. You get 40 to 60% on improved density. So we have 50% in there on that, and then increased automation. So built into the platform, it's a modern platform. There's a lot of automation, if configured correctly, that you can build in to be able to scale up and scale down, build in operational automation. And then with pod ops for OpenShift, we actually have a lot of automation that we bring to the table there also. So the real risk of inaction is lack of innovation. So as you see the major player in this market in VMware not innovating because it is a depreciating technology, VMs are. So there's not a lot of innovation going into VMs versus in containers where there's a lot of innovation going in there. Vendor control tightening on this, where they have control over features. You're not going to have a lot of control in what you do there, your integrations. And then rise in VMware costs. We're already seeing that. Everybody's running into that in the costs that it's costing you to run the exact same thing that is now actually legacy and not seeing innovation. So modernization doesn't have to be disruptive, but delaying it can be disruptive, because at the additional technical debt that you're taking on by just staying on the old virtualization platform can actually cause disruption the longer you stay. So key takeaway in this section: choosing not to modernize just because you don't fully understand your IT team's explanation is not a strategy. It is a risk. This is like refusing to switch to GPS because you're comfortable with paper maps, even as traffic, road closures, and real life navigation leave you constantly behind. So just because you're comfortable or you don't understand, it doesn't mean it is a good strategy. So don't take my word for it. Again, go do the research. Go to your favorite LLM. What are the risks of not modernizing into containers for VMs, from VMs? As a person that does not understand IT, explain this to me from a business perspective. Give me an example of what the future looks like for my IT team if we did modernize into containers, and how would it affect my business? Great prompts to go in there and learn more about this. And then the last section, how to start the shift: evaluation, planning, and strategy. So this is what we call the container first assessment. So creating the transformation roadmap. We do an application portfolio analysis. This is not about, like other providers out there have, like a virtualization assessment where they're going, hey, let me assess taking your VMs and moving them over to another hypervisor. We do this from an application standpoint. So taking a look at your applications and understanding what applications need to stay on VMs, what applications can we move to containers immediately, what needs to be refactored, where are the dependencies, how do we architect your new platform to be able to take advantage of the decisions you've made in the past. Infrastructure readiness evaluation. So what's the current state? What's going on in your infrastructure? Do you have a hardware refresh coming up? Are you using cloud? Are you using a colo? Like, how do we take the current decisions you've made on infrastructure and then reuse the most we can, and then come up with a strategy to be able to move you to your modern infrastructure? Operational readiness assessment. So what are the skill gaps, the process adaptations that have to change? How are you solving for security? All of this stuff, so that in the new platform, you have a way to get from where you are today, which probably is not a whole lot of skills on this, to getting your team up to speed so that they can actually take on the capabilities of this. But the issue is, we're seeing in most cases when people DIY this, they try to do it themselves. It takes at least 9 months to be able to get to the point where they're comfortable enough to run critical workloads. If you utilize like a solution like cross deploy with pod ops for OpenShift, we come in and we're able to provide you with a way to get critical workloads working in your environment very quickly, while your organization is learning, instead of spending a lot of time spending money and not getting ROI out of it. Economic impact analysis. So what's total cost of ownership difference? Like, how much is it going to cost you for the new platform? How does this change hardware? How does this change cloud? How does it change licenses? Based off of what's going on in your VMware environment, how does this affect renewals that are coming up? Can you get out of VMware completely? all of those types of things to be able to help you understand how to make those changes. So a very comprehensive assessment and approach to analyze the application portfolio. So our overview is a structured hands-on engagement. It's a multi-week engagement. Some organizations might take a couple weeks, some take 3 weeks, with very standardized meetings with different parts of the organization that we come in to be able to validate what's going on there to get you a complete analysis, evaluate the workloads, infrastructures, and licensing and operations, so you understand how those changes would happen, and then how do you leverage OpenShift. So what would the architecture look like for you based off of what is important to your organization, as well as the decisions you've made in the past to be able to leverage OpenShift, which OpenShift is the #1 platform, enterprise platform that utilizes Kubernetes. OpenShift is a Red Hat product. So deliverables that you end up getting from there is a comprehensive CFA report. So you'll end up getting a report that lays out, hey, this is what we analyzed, and this is how to get from where you're at to where you need to be. The workload inventory and classification report, so classifying your workloads into different ways to be able to group them into phases to be able to make the move, so you can see when your ROI would be. The migration strategy document, so how do those phases work? Like, what do we do in each phase, and what would we utilize for the migration? Your total cost of ownership and ROI analysis also over a 3-year period. So you can really say, hey, I'm going to expend this on the migration, but this is what my ROI is going to look like over the 3 years. Security and compliance recommendations. So as you move out of VMs and you move into containers, there are some changes that you would need to make in security, and being able to understand how to make those choices to be able to get you not only as good a security, but also improved security. And then AI use case recommendations. We can even add a no-cost full AI POC to this, which is another 1-week solution where we POC actually use case. But based off of what we understand is going on in your environment, in our comprehensive report, we're going to give you analysis on some use cases that your company can use to start capitalizing on AI. Because again, like I said, AI runs on containers. You put in a container environment into your organization, you now have access to be able to run the models in the containerized environment and have the actual capabilities to get the type of outputs that you need. So container first assessment overview. So we're gonna do a comprehensive assessment. We'll leverage the CFA to unlock the benefits of containerization, so you can understand how that's going to look for you. And then the engagement offers a structured approach to assess workloads. AI is a big one on there. Infrastructure, licensing, and operational readiness. So to lay out what this strategy looks like for you. Container first assessment offer. Well, the CFA fixed cost is $29,900. Fast start rebate. So if you start within 45 days of your initial consultation, I mean, you sign within the first 45 days, there's a $10,000 rebate off of that. So your net cost of this comes down to $19,900. We do have a pod ops rebate. So if you sign a cross deploy with pod ops for OpenShift service agreement within 45 days of the end of the assessment, we'll actually rebate on that agreement the $19,900 you spent on the assessment. So your net cost ends up being $0. You say, hey, I'm interested. We sign an agreement on the assessment. We come in and get that done at the end of the assessment. We sign an agreement to come in and do the cross deploy with pod ops solution, to build the solution and then also maintain that solution for you. Zero net cost out of pocket, or zero net cost for you as an end result, because of the rebates that you would end up having on that. So super low risk. If you're sitting here going, I do need to come up with a solution, I need to understand how to do this, and now there's a roadmap on how to get me there, Crossvale can help you get there at zero cost. So why a container first strategy? So organizations that fail to move to container first are already falling behind. So I don't want you to sit here and go away from this and go, oh, this is the future. Look, everything is going to move to containers. This is already here. you are already behind if you do not have a container environment today. If your competition is doing this and you are not, you are going to allow them to be able to be more efficient and do things in a way that could take market share from your business. It's important to understand IT can help drive more revenue for you, or it can be something that is slowing down your ability to get more revenue because of whether it's fast and agile or whether it's slow. So if you want help, go to this link at crossvale.com, contact us. You can find this on our website. Ask for the fast start rebate. Just say, hey, I saw your webinar. I'm interested in the fast start rebate. Someone will reach out. We can have a consultation where we can talk to you about kind of what that looks like, understand what your problem is. If you want to learn more, you can go to our website, go to the container adoption journey. You can look at that. We have a lot of stuff on the website around this, or you want to see more about this. I have a lot of videos out there on YouTube. So you can just go to the Crossvale YouTube site, subscribe to our YouTube channel, go out there and see, a lot of the videos that we have to talk about this. We have a bunch of YouTube shorts that talks about containers. So there's a lot of places you can go and do the research. And all those prompts that I laid out in here, we'll send out this deck to you after the webinar. You can take those prompts and you can walk through a LLM and start asking questions.